The screen opens on a dimly lit party scene. Laughter echoing in the background, glasses clinking, music pounding. But behind the smiles and champagne, the camera lingers on a moment too sharp to ignore. Kirk, the seasoned veteran of love and hip-hop drama, caught his eyes wandering where they shouldn't. His target. None other than Jock's wife, Kendra. This isn't just messy, it's explosive. Fans have always known Kirk to be a man tangled in controversy, but this was different. This wasn't about old mistakes or business gone wrong. This was about loyalty, friendship, and respect, all unraveling in the blink of an eye. The whispers spread like wildfire. Social media timelines flooded with disbelief, memes, and pure outrage. How could Kirk, a man with his own complicated history, dare to thirst after his friend's wife? How could he risk everything for a glance, a gesture, a look that spoke louder than words? As the beat drops, the narrator leans in. In the ruthless world of reality TV, secrets don't stay hidden for long. And when Kirk's desire slipped through the cracks, fans weren't just shocked, they were furious. Tonight, we expose the drama, the betrayal, and the truth behind Kirk's forbidden thirst for Kendra. The screen fades to black. The audience is hooked, and the scandal is ready to unfold. The world of reality television thrives on secrets, betrayals, and the moments caught on camera that were never meant to be seen. But even in a space built on drama, some storylines shake the culture harder than others. To understand why Kirk's name is now being whispered alongside Jock and Kendra's, we need to rewind the story back to the roots of their connections, their friendships, and the reputations they carried into the spotlight. Kirk Frost was no stranger to controversy. Known for his rocky marriage to Rashida, Kirk had long lived under the cloud of mistrust and scandal. His reputation on Love and Hip Hop wasn't that of the loyal husband, but of the man who tested boundaries. A man whose eyes and actions often got him into trouble. Fans had seen it before: his mistakes, his public apologies, his attempts to rebuild. But this time, the whispers weren't about Rashida. They were about someone else entirely: young Jock. One of the most charismatic personalities on the show had finally seemed to find stability in his marriage with Kendra Robinson. Their love story had become one of the brighter spots on a show often consumed by chaos. Kendra wasn't just Jock's wife, she was his anchor, a symbol of growth, maturity, and redemption. She was respected not just as Jock's partner, but as a woman who commanded her own power and respect for fans. The bond between Jock and Kirk was part of the show's fabric. They were castmates, collaborators, men who had shared the screen and their lives for years. The expectation was simple: loyalty, brotherhood, respect. So when subtle signs of Kirk's thirsting for Kendra began to surface, the shock wasn't just about attraction, it was about betrayal. The cameras caught the looks, the lingering stares, the moments where Kirk's eyes seemed to follow Kendra a little too closely. It wasn't loud, it wasn't obvious, but reality TV has a way of amplifying the smallest gestures into thunderclaps. Fans didn't miss it. They saw what they believed to be hunger in Kirk's eyes, a silent message that spoke volumes. He wanted what he shouldn't. At first, it was dismissed as editing tricks, the kind of drama producers stir up for ratings. But as episodes aired and the moments stacked up, the whispers grew louder. Social media lit up with clips, screenshots, and slow-motion replays. Fans dissected every frame, pointing out glances that lingered too long, smiles that seemed too personal, comments that landed just a little too close to the edge of respect. The conversation shifted quickly from speculation to outrage. Jock had built his reputation on being a ladies' man. But when he chose Kendra, he showed the world that even the wildest heart could settle down. For Kirk to cast even a shadow of disrespect toward that marriage was more than messy, it was a slap in the face to friendship and trust. The tension didn't stay confined to the audience. On set, castmates began to feel the shift in the air. Every time Kirk and Kendra were in the same space, the cameras lingered, waiting for another spark. Jock himself seemed to sense the unease, his usually playful demeanor sharpening whenever the subject came too close to home. It wasn't just about jealousy. It was about pride, loyalty, and the fragile balance that kept their world from imploding for Kirk. Whether intentional or not, the damage had already begun. His past made it impossible for fans to give him the benefit of the doubt. They remembered Rashida's tears, the scandals, the public shaming. To them, this wasn't a one-off moment. It was a pattern. A man who could not control his desires. Even when they crossed into forbidden territory, the narrative was already spinning out of his hands. Fans didn't just see glances. They saw disrespect. They didn't just see Kirk being Kirk. They saw a man willing to jeopardize his friend's marriage for a fleeting thrill. And once that idea took root, there was no pulling it out. By the time the rumors solidified into headlines, the stage was set for the expose. Kirk wasn't just being accused of thirsting after Kendra. He was being painted as the villain in a story where loyalty was supposed to be sacred. Jock was the betrayed friend. Kendra was the object of unwanted desire, and Kirk. He was the man who crossed a line too many times. The audience leaned in, hungry for the fallout, waiting to see how Jock, Kendra, and even Rashida would respond. Because in the world of love and hip-hop, secrets don't stay buried, and thirst never goes unnoticed. The lights dim, and the narrator's voice cuts in like a blade. When loyalty breaks, friendships crumble. And when Kirk let his eyes wander toward Kendra, the world didn't just see thirst, they saw betrayal. The storm didn't break all at once. It started with whispers, fragments of conversations, and fan theories spreading like sparks on dry grass. But when the evidence piled up, when the clips circulated across every timeline, there was no denying it anymore. Kirk was being exposed. The camera never lies, and in reality TV, it can be merciless. Viewers began stringing together moments that, on their own, might have been harmless. A glance during a party, a compliment that lingered too long, a laugh that seemed more personal than casual. But when placed side by side, the picture became damning. It wasn't just one look. It wasn't just one comment. It was a pattern. Social media became the courtroom. Fans dissected every episode with surgical precision, slowing down footage, replaying scenes, and arguing in heated threads. "Look at his eyes," one fan wrote. "That ain't just friendly." Another added, "He's supposed to be Jock's boy, and this is how he moves." "Nah, that's shady." Memes popped up overnight, painting Kirk as the sneaky villain in a story that should have been about Jock and Kendra's happiness. The shockwaves hit the cast too. Jock, always the center of attention for his wild history with women, now found himself in the opposite position. For once, he wasn't the one accused of being messy, he was the victim of it. And that role sat uneasily on him. Jock prided himself on loyalty, on keeping his circle strong even when his personal life spiraled. But to see a supposed brother eyeing his wife cut deeper than anything a stranger could do, Kendra, poised and composed as always, didn't let the storm shake her. But even her silence became a talking point. Fans speculated endlessly. Did she know? Did she feel it? Did she sense Kirk's energy lingering too close? And if she did, what did she think of Jock's friend turning into a secret admirer? The producers leaned in hard. Every interaction between Kirk and Kendra became magnified. Every party or event became an opportunity for the tension to resurface. They knew the audience was hungry, and they fed them piece by piece, letting the scandal grow bigger than the show itself. What might have been a handful of looks turned into a full-blown narrative. Kirk was thirsty, and the world was watching. For Kirk, the pressure mounted. His reputation was already fragile. Years of mistakes with Rashida had painted him as the man who couldn't be trusted. The man who always found a way to test the limits of respect. Now, with Jock and Kendra in the spotlight, Kirk's past came rushing back to haunt him. Every mistake was dragged up again, every apology re-examined. To fans, this wasn't a new story, it was the same Kirk, repeating the same sins, only with higher stakes. The expose gained traction beyond the show. Blogs picked it up, headlines screamed about Kirk's wandering eyes, and YouTube commentators broke down every detail with dramatic music and animated reenactments. The scandal wasn't just TV drama anymore, it was viral content, spreading far beyond the fan base. And the question that cut the deepest wasn't just about desire. It was about betrayal. How could Kirk, who had sat with Jock, laughed with Jock, worked with Jock, turn around and let even the perception of thirst creep toward Jock's wife? In a culture where respect and loyalty mean everything, this was treachery at its most personal. The fallout hit Rashida too. Fans turned their eyes to her, demanding to know how she felt about her husband's name once again tied to disrespect. For years, she had stood by him through scandals and mistakes. But now it wasn't just her heart on the line, it was the respect of their peers, their friends, their castmates. Rashida's silence spoke volumes. Every time she looked at Kirk, the audience wondered what she was really thinking. And still, Kirk remained quiet, never fully addressing the accusations, never offering a defense strong enough to stop the narrative. That silence became fuel. Fans interpreted it as guilt, as confirmation that what they saw on screen was exactly what it looked like. His silence was louder than any denial could have been. The expose had done its job. Kirk was no longer just a flawed husband. He was now the friend who crossed the line, the man who let temptation override loyalty, the villain in Jock and Kendra's love story. And once reality TV paints you as the villain, the stain never fades. The narrator's voice cuts in over a dramatic shot of Kirk. His eyes caught mid-stare. When the cameras caught Kirk thirsting for Kendra, it wasn't just footage, it was evidence. And in the court of public opinion, the verdict was swift. Guilty, exposed, branded forever. The fallout was instant. Brutal and impossible to contain. Once the narrative took hold, Kirk was no longer just a husband with a complicated past. He was the man who had violated the unspoken code of brotherhood. Fans who had once laughed at his antics now turned cold, their comments dripping with disappointment and fury. Social media didn't just watch this scandal unfold. It amplified it, turning every meme, every hot take, every gif into a weapon.joc. For once, wasn't the butt of the joke. The man who had spent years as the playful, messy ladies' man was suddenly cast as the betrayed friend. The husband whose loyalty was mocked in public view. The shift in tone was striking. Fans who once rolled their eyes at Jock's antics now stood with him, demanding justice, demanding accountability, demanding that Kirk face the consequences of his wandering eyes. Jock's image, ironically, grew stronger. He became the man fighting to protect his marriage from betrayal, a man standing in the eye of a storm not of his own making. Kendra, as always, carried herself with composure. But even her strength became part of the story. Fans praised her for not letting the scandal break her image, for standing tall while the whispers swirled around her. Yet beneath the praise, the questions lingered. Did she feel uncomfortable? Did she notice Kirk's thirst? And more dangerously, what did it mean for her marriage if her husband's friend could not be trusted? The tension seeped into the cast like poison. Trust between the men fractured, conversations behind the scenes grew tense, and alliances shifted. Producers, always ready to stir the pot, leaned into the tension, crafting episodes that put Kirk, Jock, and Kendra in the same spaces, daring the cracks to widen into explosions. The show thrived, but the friendships suffered. For Rashida, the fallout was a nightmare on repeat. Years of scandal had already scarred her marriage. And now Kirk's name was back in the mud, dragged through the dirt for the world to laugh at. She held her head high, but the weight was obvious. Fans wondered how long she could carry the burden of defending a man who seemed determined to test her patience and the respect of everyone around him. Once again, her loyalty was put to the test, not just as a wife, but as a woman forced to stand in the shadow of her husband's missteps. The fans were relentless. Hashtags trended, podcasts tore into Kirk's actions, and YouTube breakdowns painted him as the latest villain in a saga of betrayal. Even those who tried to defend him were drowned out by the tidal wave of outrage. It was just looks, some argued. He didn't actually do anything. But for most, the line had already been crossed. Intentions mattered as much as actions, and the look in Kirk's eyes told a story words couldn't erase. Kirk, boxed in by the scandal, tried to downplay the narrative. But his silence and half-hearted responses only fueled the fire. Fans didn't want excuses. They wanted remorse, accountability, something to prove that he understood the gravity of what he had done. But that never came. Instead, Kirk became the symbol of disrespect. The friend who crossed a sacred line. The man who couldn't resist temptation even when loyalty demanded he look the other way. The fallout reshaped the dynamics of the show. Jock and Kendra's bond was tested, but paradoxically, it grew stronger in the eyes of fans. They became the couple fighting against outside betrayal, united in the face of scandal. Their love story, once overshadowed by Jock's wild past, was now cast in a new light, loyalty standing tall against disloyalty. But for Kirk, the damage was permanent. His reputation, already fragile, crumbled further. Every past mistake was dragged back into the spotlight, stitched together into a narrative of a man who could never be trusted. In the world of reality TV, redemption is rare, and Kirk's window was closing fast. The narrator's voice returns as the camera pans across the fallout. Jock and Kendra standing strong. Rashida caught in silent frustration, and Kirk, shadowed and isolated. In the end, thirst isn't just about desire, it's about respect. And when Kirk let his eyes wander toward Kendra, he didn't just betray his wife, he betrayed his friend, his brotherhood, and the trust of a culture that values loyalty above all. The beat swells as the screen fades to black. The fans were right. The thirst was real. And the fallout, unforgettable. And that's the story, unfiltered, raw, and impossible to ignore. Kirk's eyes may have spoken louder than his words, but in the world of reality TV, nothing stays hidden forever. The question now isn't whether he was thirsty, it's whether he crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. But I want to hear from you. Do you think Kirk was really out of bounds, or are fans blowing it out of proportion? Was this just harmless glances, or did he betray Jock by even letting his desire show? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, 'cause this isn't just my story, it's ours to dissect. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you smash that like button because your support keeps the truth flowing. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next expose. And hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when the drama drops. Share this video with a friend who lives for reality TV chaos, because these conversations aren't just entertainment, they're lessons in loyalty, betrayal, and the price of choices at the end of the day. One truth stands tall. In hip-hop, in reality TV, in life itself, every move you make leaves a mark. And Kirk's mark, well, fans will never forget it. Until next time, stay tuned, stay sharp, and remember, the drama never sleeps. Drama never sleeps.